Hi, Charlie. My name is Anderson. And so I used to attend a church, and recently we stopped attending it because they do preaching, sort of, which they talk about race in it. The main senior pastor, he said that there's too many white people attending our church. And my mother, she had a conversation with him, but he still kind of does the same things. But our youth pastor, he has also said the same things, talking about, I met this great couple of a black man and a Hispanic mother, and their child was just so beautiful. And what I want to do is have a conversation with that youth pastor. I wanted to ask you, what things should I say to them to try to prove that point, that it's not right?
Yeah, look, I hate talking about race. I do. I'm exhausted talking about it. I think it's a distraction, and it's terrible. So let me give you a couple piece of advice, but I'll tell you, I'm running out of patience talking about race. Your race means nothing to me, and it means nothing to God. Let me say that again. It means nothing to God whatsoever. Period. If you think it matters, then we have a word for that, and that word is used rather generously, but it's actually racism. It's racist to believe that race matters. Okay, let me give you two principles of Christianity that I think you should challenge on. These are the questions. Do you believe in things, what is more important? That which is visible or that which is invisible? Ask him that question. And then, not you, but ask the youth pastor. And he'll have to say invisible. He'll have to, or else he's not a Christian. Okay? Now, that's not to say that you can't see God or you can't hear from God, but the things we can't sense immediately with our five senses are way more important than the things we can sense. It's the flesh versus the invisible war. Okay? And then the second thing you say, okay, what do you take a higher preference on? Things you can change or things you cannot change? And if you was, of course, a Christian, you should say the things you can change. Or else we wouldn't believe in redemptive Christianity, right? We'd believe you become a Christian through blood right. And so those are the only two questions that you should ask. And if he says, okay, well, yeah, I believe in the invisible more than the visible, and I believe that things you can change versus the things you can't change, you say, then how do you care about race so much? Because you're focusing on things that are visible and something that can't change, and therefore you're focusing on things that are unbiblical and against Christianity. So that's how I would answer that question.
Hey, the only caveat I put on it, I'm kind of happy these last couple of years where pastors tilted their hand down and you can kind of see what they really believe. Because now they're not hiding, and I just go, thank you, I'll remember that. And I tell people, leave a church, let God direct you to a balanced, loving pastor who doesn't have all these crazy biases and can feed the sheep and equip them for the work of the ministry.
Let me add one thing, too. When you leave that church, I think the exit conversation is very important. There's a mixed opinion about this. Some people say leave quietly. I think you should leave respectfully. But I think you need to confront. I'm a big believer in this.
Agreed.
You need to have a big, long, drawn-out meeting and know your stuff and say, this is why we are leaving. Why? After the fifth or sixth time they have to confront a family that will do that, that makes a big difference. And in fact, 9 months, 18 months, 24 months later, they might all of a sudden remember one sentence that was said in that conversation that could change their life. Now, I travel to churches across the country, so does Victor, and I was just recently at a church, and they were never talking about these issues. But one family, in the midst of all the stuff that was happening in the summer. To give you an idea, they were recommending White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo and Ibram X. Kendi. And one family who the pastor trusted says, I need to see you. I've known you for 35 years. You have no idea the demonic influences you bring into this church. One conversation. And the pastor talked to me and said, there's no way this could all be true. He never heard of Thomas Sowell before. He had never heard of any of this stuff. After one conversation, he said, I need to take a month to study this stuff. He had a complete 180 reversal. And he realized that critical race theory, wokeism, all this stuff was from the enemy. And that church is now growing, and they're courageous, and they're talking about these things. So I want to just encourage you to have those conversations. They're so incredibly important. So God bless you, man. Thank you for being here.